Hello, Browns fans. Welcome to the Dawgland podcast. Do not adjust your streaming devices wherever you're watching us. We are live 2 days in a row. We haven't done that since the NFL draft, but we had a lot of Browns news today, with it being the first practice of training camp, an extension, a visit, quarterback things to discuss. But we want to get in here and talk with you all again as we did last night. And Jack, good to see you again so quickly.
Yeah, good to see you too, brother. Like I was telling our friend, guest of the show before, Jacob Roach, I was like, as long as there's Browns news and your and I's schedules align, we will pump out as much Browns content as we can. So good to be back here tonight talking with you, man. And shout out to everybody in the chat already. And just to throw this out here real quick, you guys want to keep getting solid Browns content, go subscribe to our boys right here, the Barking Browns. But subscribe to us, like this, share it with your friends and fellow Dog Pound members, and just let's keep this thing rolling. We're at 139 subscribers, so let's keep getting that count up, because that'll only help us and helps out the rest of the Dog Pound.
I promise we won't be chugging any lemon juice on this podcast like we saw on Barking Browns last night. I'm not sure if I could pull that off. If I did, I'd probably be throwing up in this garbage can right next to me. But
shout out to Bill for that. That was awesome.
None of that at this point. But we may have to put some bets down and have some repercussions for said bets at some point. So we'll discuss that off the air. Always great to see you. We have a lot to get through again this evening, and much like last night, we are going to start with an extension, and that the Cleveland Browns and Grant Delpit, who we talked about last night at the end of the show. It was kind of like a last-second question that I had for you. The Cleveland Browns and Grant Delpit have agreed to a contract extension that'll keep him here through the 2029 season. Another core member of this defense taken care of. Denzel Ward was last night, Grant Delpit today. Jack, we were talking about last night how important we thought it would be to keep Delpit around, and the Browns go ahead and give him a 3-year extension today.
Yeah, I really wondered on this one. I know we heard stuff over the summer that there was potential extension talks with Delpit, but just never knew if it was going to get it done. I mentioned last night, like, how did Ronnie Hickman play into this? I think the answer is probably becoming quite clearer as to who they're picking, at least for the next several years. And I don't think that's a slight at Ronnie Hickman. I just think Grant Delpit's that good, and he's continuously been that good since he's entered the league in 2020. Obviously, it started off on the wrong foot literally with a ruptured Achilles tendon, but he has bounced back, been one of the underrated safeties. Uh, Great coverage, great in as a tackler. Like he does everything well as a safety. Doesn't get the recognition, obviously, because the Browns haven't been a great NFL franchise, but a solid football player. And it made all the sense in the world for the Browns to get this done. And I'm glad they did.
Yeah, he's somebody that you can utilize across different areas of the defense. When we had brought in Jabril Peppers and drafted him in the first round, like there was some talk of being able to play him in different spots, and ultimately they ended up trading him in the Odell Beckham trade. But since we've had Delpit, they've been able to utilize him in different areas, line him up on the defense, and he's done really well. And I'm glad to see that another core member of this defense is locked up for the next handful of years. The secondary, yes, we have questions about it and the depth that it has, especially at corner. But when you have a solid core group of guys, with Delpit, you have Denzel Ward. We're expecting big things out of McNeil Warren as a rookie and going forward. We still have Campbell for a couple more seasons. This defense, there are some really good pieces here. Yes, we worry about the depth on it, but with what you have currently, you have to be pretty excited about what is currently here.
Yeah, most definitely. I think like when you talk about the secondary as a whole, I think, that like the starters and the whole safety room I think is really solid. Obviously the depth in the corner room is definitely a concern, but I mean, I had tweeted this out, you made this graphic which looks excellent. Like this is the foundation of our defense. And going forward, you have them here. We don't know exactly if Denzel Ward's was an extension. I happen to think it was just the he's under contract for the next 2 years and they guaranteed his money and gave him a pay raise. He essentially said that in his press conference today. But you just look at this down the line, like the core of this defense, Anthony, is here at least through the next 2 seasons. A lot of these guys are here for the next 3 or 4 seasons. That goes to good drafting by Andrew Berry, good trades, and great player development by the coaching staff. We've drafted all of these guys except Verse and Campbell, but we've developed them. And, hopefully Graham continues to establish himself. McNeil Warren establishes himself right out of the gate. And Swessinger continues to evolve as a player, which if he continues to evolve from what he's done in his rookie year, like this defense is going to be nasty for the next few seasons.
Yeah, I just want to clarify with the graphic too for Mason Graham and Jared Verse. Those are the years after the fifth year options. And I would imagine that they'll pick both of those up. As we get closer. I look. You look at Jared Verse. Here after for the next few seasons. Maybe after this season, if they want to approach a contract extension, that would be a good time to do it. Because I believe they have to pick up that option next offseason
Yep.
for him. So that would probably be a time that extension would be in play if he decides that he wants to stay here. But that's a solid list of players there that you have on your defense. Who we also didn't include was Alex Wright, who is here through I think it was 2028. So also 3 more seasons as well for him. So another rotational guy. Well, for now, probably a starter, but another guy that's locked in there. But when you have 7 of your players right here, 7 starters locked up for 2 seasons with Ward, who is what we assume right now, and then all the others 3 or more seasons later, you have a really good foundation. And if you continue to draft well on defense over the next couple years, you're going to be in a really good spot with it.
Yeah, without question. I mean, they've been able to reload at some positions here the last couple seasons. Obviously, you mentioned Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire in the edge room, them picking up Jared Verse in the Myles Garrett trade. You have Mason Graham, hopefully Mike Hall, which we talked about him at length last night. He's another guy that hopefully can step forward and be one of these guys that Barry has drafted and the coaching staff has been able to develop. But obviously, like corner, it's only Campbell and Ward. We'll see what they do on the back end of that room. Safety, we feel really good about that room heading into the season. Linebacker looks good. And then the front 7, arguably one of the best in football. We'll see how it goes, obviously, in the post Miles era, but there's talent there. And it wasn't just Miles Garrett. I think just that was the guy that defense is honed in on. And probably that was what our coordinators would center around was we have 95. He's the best in the world. Let's just unleash him. But I think there's a lot of talent in that front seven. And hopefully it all gets utilized this season and we can see what all their true potentials truly are.
Absolutely. Would love to see that. As we kind of wrap up the extensions, I want to ask you too, here before we move on completely, is I asked last night, is there anybody that's next? And we talked about Grant Delpit. So I'll ask you again this evening. Is there somebody, offense or defense, that could be next with an extension with them getting deals done in back-to-back days?
Not off the top of my head, unless they get a team friendly extension done on Ronnie Hickman and you just keep that safety room together. But after Grant Delpit, like, I can't think of somebody off the top of my head. If somebody in the chat wants to throw in a name, I'd love to hear it. But off the top of my head, I can't think of a guy, honestly.
Yeah, because you look at the quarterback room. We talked about that. Really, nobody there at this moment. Running back room, both Judkins and Sampson are in the second year of their 4-year rookie deals. Wide receivers, you have two rookies, Jerry Jeudy with two more seasons after this year, I think. Isaiah Bond has 3 years left, including this year. Offensive line, you brought all these guys in. I can't see anybody there at the moment. D line, we talked about Graham and Hall already. Malik Collins, I don't think that that's something that they would approach at this moment, but
That would be like a mid-season extension if he's playing well and they don't feel good about the future of Mike Hall. That would be the last potential contract extension because he's only 29. So you could give him another 2-year deal or something like that. But other than that, I just quickly looked down the list of free agents coming up here at the end of the season, and that's like the only one that was eye-opening.
I don't think McGuire. I really don't have anybody else on defense or on the team other than Hickman at the moment.
Yeah. Maybe Tevin Jenkins could be a midseason extension if he starts and plays well, because obviously he's only on a 1-year deal. So, yeah, I mean, Hickman, Collins, we'll throw Tevin Jenkins in, but that's obviously a to be determined as well.
Yeah, we've talked about kind of the retooling over the last couple of years on this entire football team, and you have a lot of people on longer contracts now. You have a lot of rookies to where the bulk of your roster is signed through the next handful of seasons, which puts the Browns and Andrew Berry in a really good spot to be flexible in making any sort of move.
Yeah, and or he's still our colleague, Jack Duffin over at the OBR has said there's going to be a ton of cash for the Browns to spend next offseason. And there'll be a lot of cap space. And we know that Andrew Berry has done some cap wizardry, is what we've called it, in terms of the cap, in terms of spending that money. Jimmy Haslam, we know, isn't afraid to spend that money. Contracts will come off the books. The Browns have one of the youngest rosters in the league. Like, they do have a chance to flip it around in the next season or two after 2026. But yeah, we got the core of the defense locked up. A lot of the offense is fairly young and on rookie contracts. Like, you find the quarterback, whether it's on the roster or in the future, things can turn around really.
I would tend to guess.
Yeah, we don't know the details yet on Ward and Delpit, but void years have been a absolute guarantee in Andrew Berry contracts over the last several seasons to maintain cap flexibility. So I would not be stunned if that's to be the case.
They've been so important that apparently they're in Madden this year. So I'm curious to see how that's going to work.
Yeah, and I said if everything goes according to plan, and Jeff goes, "Welp." And you're right, Jeff. Not everything always goes according to plan, but that's the optimist in all of us Browns fans.
Yeah. All right. As we move forward here, the Browns actually had a visit today. They hosted Jadeveon Clowney, who was with the Browns a few seasons ago, in for a free agent visit. Kind of surprising. I think it caught us all a little off guard that, he came in as a potential free agent signing. Now, he did play not under Todd Monken because he wasn't a head coach over there, but he was the offensive coordinator in Baltimore when Clowney signed with the Ravens. I was very surprised to see this. I'm not sure how what your thoughts are here, but we talked about the Browns' depth in the edge room kind of being a question mark after the AJ Epinesa deal kind of fell through, or not kind of, it actually did fall through because of medicals. So they bring in Clowney for a visit today. Your thoughts on them trying to add another veteran edge rusher to this defensive front?
Yeah, it was when I saw that they said Clowney was visiting. Brown's Twitter likes to go back in the time and like repost old tweets, and I thought maybe this was what it was, but then it was real. Obviously, like Garofolo, Schefter, Rappaport, they all reported it. Mary Kay saying the Browns have strong interest in signing him. So he did visit today. Jordan Schultz obviously reporting saying the visit went well. Uh, but looking back at Clowney's history, and I did this before we went live, Anthony. He tends to sign mid to late August, early September, with the exception of when he signed the 2-year deal in Carolina. I wouldn't say this is probably going to be something that happens in the next couple days. Clowney's obviously been in the league a long time. He likes to take his time, doesn't want to go through the grind of training camp. It's all good. I mean, he's earned that right as a veteran. But I think this would be a solid addition to the room. Obviously, he had one good season here a couple years back. The last season here did not go well, and he let it be known vocally. But he's been productive. Because you see in Baltimore, 9.5 sacks in 2023, only 5.5 in Carolina in 2024, but he bounced back with the Cowboys, who obviously were trying to replace Micah Parsons, and he had 8.5 sacks. So I think Clowney would be a solid addition to this room with Jared Verse, Alex Wright, and Isaiah McGuire. We said it a couple weeks ago, Anthony, we needed that veteran in that room, and I think Clowney would fit the mold for sure.
I kind of going to bring Moneyball into this a little bit, right? The premise of that movie when they were trying to replace Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, is they were trying to recreate those players in the aggregate. So you trade off Myles Garrett, one of the best to ever do it, bring in Jared Verse as part of the deal. You have a couple younger guys in Wright and McGuire. Clowney, because could he be that last piece that kind of, not fully recreate Myles Garrett, but an additional piece to kind of get you somewhat near that level of production across your entire edge room?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, like you said, you're trying. Obviously, no one's going to replace Miles, but like you said, if you get a few guys who can combine, have the production of what Miles was able to do last year, especially like 23 sacks, single season record, I think you go for it. Obviously, Clowney and Verse both can get after the quarterback, both can rack up sacks. Alex Wright had a career year last year with 5.5. Isaiah McGuire shown the ability as well. If you can get everybody across the front, which I think is something I think Andrew Berry's always wanted to do, Anthony, and that's to kind of build that line like a Philadelphia Eagles type line where you just have pass rushing threats across the board, whether it's D tackle, edge, linebacker, safety, corner, etc. Um, I think it can work. I think that's something I think Andrew Berry's probably thought of going back to his time in Philadelphia. Um, but we'll see. Like I think Clowney and Verse could be a solid 1-2 punch in the AFC North, and then you'll be able to rotate Wright and McGuire in.
Yeah, if you have four guys that you can consistently, rotate in and out, that would be extremely beneficial, especially if we do have the lead late in games and you want to keep your pass rushers as fresh as possible, which is probably one of the reasons why Myles Garrett is really going to succeed out in LA because they are going to have leads out there, and he's probably going to be able to close a handful of games for the Rams out there this season because that offense is really good. And, he didn't really get a chance to have too many leads, here with Cleveland and have that chance to really tee off in terms of the pass rush, late in games. So uh, if you can keep your guys fresh in that second half in that fourth quarter by rotating in 4 or 5 guys, I'll throw in, if Kamara makes this team, that's another guy that could kind of play the edge spot. Maybe in the first half. I want to trust him. Out there late in the fourth quarter. But if he can help keep your players fresh for those late game situations, the more the merrier. And I hate to reiterate this, but the motto of this podcast has been for about 10 years now is you can never have enough pass rushers. So as long as they want to keep bringing in guys, I'm all for it.
Yeah, without question. That's always been our motto here on the podcast. I've loved, especially the last couple of years, how they've built up this defensive line and have been able to rotate guys in and out. We were hoping it would take the load off of Miles, but obviously he carried the load here the last couple seasons before his exit. But I think this was the plan all along by Andrew Berry, is to have, a rotation of guys, both interior and exterior on that defensive front. And having linebackers like Swessinger and Quincy Williams come blitzing in and creating pressure on quarterbacks. I hope everything goes according to plan in that aspect, because I think this defense can make some noise. And if they can add Clowney, or if they find another veteran to potentially bring in, the more the merrier when it comes to pass rushers, for sure.
Yeah, I know there's mentioned in the tweet there an NFC West team that we could be competing with, and I would not be surprised if the Cincinnati Bengals are added to that list with the knee injury that Shamar Stewart suffered today, which did not look very good. I regret seeing it on Twitter. Did not look great. So if you get squeamish about things, I would not go purposely look that one up. But, we'll see how long he'll be out for the Bengals. It looked pretty devastating, so hopefully it's not a season-ending injury, but it has that potential to be that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I can say with pretty much 100% confidence that NFC West team is not the Los Angeles Rams. If Browns fans that have really been following this team the last couple of years, especially when Clowney was here the first go-around, his relationship with Myles Garrett was not the greatest, so I would not expect the Rams to be that team. I know the 49ers have been looking for another edge to pair up with Nick Bosa. I know the Joey Bosa rumors were there during the spring and summer, but I can see Clowney being an option for them as well. So we'll see. Obviously, like if you're picking between the two, the 49ers would be probably the more likely spot if he wants to go compete for a Super Bowl, but obviously he's got enough interest in Cleveland enough to come take a visit.
Also, the defending Super Bowl champs, always looking to add pieces as well out there.
Yeah, because they did lose some guys. I know one came to Cincinnati. I think it was Boy Mafi, but I think they lost a couple guys after the Super Bowl, so it's not surprising.
All right. Let's get to some of the practice news that we came across today, and I guess we'll talk about the quarterbacks.
We'd be foolish not to.
I know we would be foolish not to. It is a endless supply of content for us, to say the least. Talking about the quarterbacks, from what I saw, did not look great for either one today. Looked even worse for Deshaun Watson, who had 2 interceptions early on in the 11-on-11. His arm, from the videos that I saw, non-existent,
No.
especially in the short and quick game. Not much behind his passes. He doesn't have to be like Derek Anderson chucking the ball out there in those short yardage situations, but it did not look great in terms of the arm strength and what he has. So it may be a long season for us, Shaq, if this is what we're picking between. But between these two quarterbacks, Watson was with the ones today. Sanders was with the twos. Todd Monken said that it will be the opposite tomorrow, where Sanders will be with the ones and Watson will be with the twos. Just your take on what you had seen today.
Yeah, from what I saw, and it was majority of it was Watson, did not look good. The arm, definitely very questionable. I saw a deep throw to Judy that just looked like it was sailing, and it was up there. You could have put the hang time timer up like they used to do back in the day on punts, and that was
an arm punt.
Yeah, basically it was an arm punt. And that goes back to the spring when Mary Kay said that Watson's arm was showing fatigue, and he was feeling fatigue in that arm during the spring. So that's not very promising if you're a fan of Deshaun Watson. Obviously, you can go by that QB tracker that ESPN Cleveland does, and you can see that like Sanders had a solid day, but a lot of it was the quick game, which is what Monken said on Cleveland Browns Daily after training camp was over today. So if that was the quick game, obviously Sanders wins in that category. Um, but it's only day one. We'll see how it goes, obviously, as the days go by. But not a good day for Deshaun Watson in this QB competition. Uh, I would imagine this is probably going to go a couple weeks, maybe through the first preseason game, maybe the joint practice against Buffalo. But if anybody was expecting a quick resolution, I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like they're going to go a back and forth kind of day, at least through maybe the first week, and then it'll become clearer after that. But yeah, I would say right now it's not good for Watson, but it's only day one, so we'll see how tomorrow goes for Sanders.
Yeah, if you could throw up the quote from today. So Todd Monken after practice today was talking about the players and who is going to be playing in the preseason, and you got that for me.
Yeah, hold on.
It's not
Yep,
loading.
there we go. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. He said after practice today that we're going to play in the preseason. I won't back myself into a corner. Right now, I plan on playing the starters, but I plan on playing our guys. We're going to see what we got, especially at quarterback. So I would tend to think, Jack, that with that, like he said, he's not going to back himself into a corner. But that tells me that these guys are going to be evaluated in these preseason games, and that performance is going to matter in terms of determining who is going to be the starting quarterback week one.
Yep, already a 180 from the last coach. Stefanski did not like to play his starters in the preseason, and Todd Monken says he's not going to put himself into a corner. He's going to say they're going to play. Like, we don't know how long they're going to play, but they're going to play, which is obviously a breath of fresh air. A lot of us wanted to see guys out on the field. A lot of us think the preseason doesn't matter, myself included, but it is good to get these guys out there, live game reps, to get a feel. And I think that's key in this quarterback competition. If you want to make it right, and you're going up against some stiff competition in the preseason with the Bears, Bills, and Patriots, like that's three playoff teams right there. So I think that's a good thing to get these guys out there in live game action against somewhat of a pass rush. I know they don't go stir crazy in the preseason, obviously, because you don't want to see injuries, but I think that's good for Deshaun Watson. I think that's good for Shedeur Sanders to see how they go up against some of these defenses and see how they react when trying to operate Todd Monken's offense.
And more importantly, and I know we've talked about it already, but the more this offensive line is able to play together in the preseason, the more it has the opportunity to gel. And with all these new starters on the offensive line, it needs to. So, if those guys are out there, the full first half with these quarterbacks, that's great. I would love to see that. I'll be curious to see game in and game out how much each quarterback is playing. Um, but I would tend to think that at least a quarter of each of the games, at least in the first two for both.
Yeah, yeah, I would think so. Like the maybe a quarter in the Chicago game for each. In the I hypothetically say they announced the starter after the joint practice or around the time of the joint practice. Maybe we don't see them then, but then we see them in the quote unquote dress rehearsal game against New England. But I think like a quarter, but even if it's just like two series, maybe a third series, which could equate obviously to a quarter, I think that would be enough not only for the quarterbacks, but like you said, the offensive line, um, even those rookie receivers, especially if one of them's on the first team offense, getting that experience out there, getting those valuable reps. I think that would be great for everybody aboard.
I see the comment. You see the comment?
Yeah, the future of Pittsburgh, unfortunately, but Will Howard, baby.
Hey, he's got some other guys he's got to beat out over there before that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see how it goes for Will this year. I
Yeah,
think
that,
he's firmly in as the backup, though.
that could be an interesting quarterback situation over there. Was very surprised that Rodgers came back. So for Pittsburgh, we'll see.
The
All
last
right.
rodeo.
Yep. Hopefully it will be longer than his Jets rodeo that he had.
No doubt, man.
All right. As we move along here, anything else catch your eye with practice today? If you want
Just that DeJuan Jones was left tackle one with the first team. I know it's the first day of camp, but you can't take too much out of it. You can't overreact to things, but I did think that was interesting. I would have thought maybe they'd throw Spencer Fano out there immediately as the left tackle and let him get all the reps, but who knows? Maybe they're wanting him to earn it, which I'm all for at the same time. We know Todd Monken was impressed with DeJuan and the work he's put in during the offseason. So maybe he's giving him that opportunity. I did find that very interesting, though, that DeJuan was first up as left tackle, but that was the only other thing. Darren Mathis, the new corner that just came in. Unfortunately, he left practice early, but he did have an interception off of Deshaun Watson today, which I thought was really good. We've talked about the cornerback position being a key position, obviously, for this team and the depth behind Ford and Campbell. But him making a play early in his very first Browns practice, I thought that was pretty good. Obviously, he was a fourth round pick for the Broncos a couple years ago, so obviously trying to carve out his role on an NFL roster, and we'll see if it'll ultimately be with the Cleveland Browns.
coming back from an ACL injury last year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's encouraging that he's back and he's healthy, and hopefully today was just a, it wasn't anything major. Hopefully he doesn't miss too much time because obviously he's fighting for a roster spot here, and would love to see him crack in and make the Browns cornerback room.
And then the other two notes with the offensive line was Elton Jenkins was at center, Tevin Jenkins at right guard, for the offensive line, along with DeJuan Jones at left tackle. So kind of taking shape there.
Yeah, and I know Jeff said that he was something about rotating Fano and Jones. He may have said that. I'll have to reread the quotes again. Um, he said that we will see all the rookies out there, obviously, Spencer Fano, Parker Brailsford, and Austin Barber. We'll see them all out there getting reps, and obviously they're going to play in the preseason. So, like I said, it's day one of camp. You can't really overreact to too much of anything that has happened today because we have 6 weeks to go until the season starts. So, obviously, a lot can change between now and then.
Yeah, I was looking at the quotes really quickly while you're talking there. In terms of the offensive line situation getting figured out, he was asked how quickly he would prefer to have it. He said it would be great to figure it out quickly. The sooner, the better. But again, the players will determine that. Obviously, we brought in 3 highly regarded free agents. We anticipate those guys starting for us, but that's still to be determined. We're not at the first game yet. We'll see Spencer, Austin, Parker, the rookies, along with the guys that are here with the roster previously. So, be interesting to see how those pieces rotate in and out. And on the bright side, as we've talked about, the depth with the offensive line kind of seems to be back with where it was a few seasons ago. Just taking a little bit of time to get there.
Yeah, and I did actually see on Twitter, shout out to Daniel Oafusi of ESPN. He said that it's going to be like the quarterback position. Fano will be with the ones tomorrow, which him being with Shador, I think maybe that tells us something, but maybe it doesn't. But I did think that's interesting that he'll be the left tackle for Shador tomorrow when they're with the first team. So
And
it's definitely something to watch.
To note along with that too, the 2 rookie receivers were on the second team today with Shador. We'll see how that plays out tomorrow as well.
It's going to be fun to watch. Wish I wasn't going to be in Berea tomorrow instead of work. So
I know. I'll be there next week, so I'm excited to get there for that and check out the practices like I talked about yesterday. But it seems like we have a couple camp battles officially. Obviously, Watson and Sanders, Fano, and DeJuan Jones as well. And we'll see what other ones pop up here.
Yeah, for sure. If anybody wants any questions answered by me and Anthony, you can put them in the chat here for the next couple minutes. If not, well, you're going to wrap things up here pretty soon. Anthony, is there anything from camp that you've read or seen that caught your eye?
Today, no. It's just like the Watson, I guess, just with the lack of arm strength, I struggled quite a bit. Seeing that, and we had those reports from NKC in the spring about his arm. So, look, if his arm is done, like, what are we doing here? Just be done with it, and let's just move forward and try our best to evaluate the other guys that are here.
Yeah, for sure. That's how I'm feeling as well. Yeah, Jeff. I mean, it is something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Fano, the rookie receivers are going to be with Sanders. I saw that Jamari Thrash was in the slot with between Judy and Bond today with the first team with Watson. So it's like the experienced guys are with Watson, the young guys are with Sanders. You could take that for what you will, but I do find it very interesting that that's how it's structured. But at the same time, like the rookies have to earn their spots on the first team. You don't hand it to them. There's competition. You got to earn it, and I think those rookies will earn it because obviously they were highly graded and talented coming out of college. That they were first round picks, early second round picks. So the talent's there. They just have to go out and earn the job, which I think they ultimately will. You're muted.
Yeah, I realized that. The other thing as well is Harold Fannin said the reason he wasn't out there in the spring was because of a groin injury, and that seems to be cleared up now. So hopefully that'll be just fine as we get through the spring and into the regular season here.
Yeah, I do remember the groin injury. I think it was the Steelers game. He had that opening drive touchdown, and he was hurt right after. He tried to celebrate, but you could see he was hurting, and obviously he missed the rest of that game in the finale against Cincinnati. But good to see that he's healthy and fully ready to go now. It's definitely encouraging to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely going to be a big option for whichever one of the quarterbacks is out there. Probably the number 2 option in terms of pass catchers, maybe even a number 1 guy to start the year. So we'll see how that goes. All right, I think.
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say real quick because we didn't talk about it with Delpit. Did you see the video of Andrew Berry telling him that the extension was done?
Yes, I did.
He was holding in. There was no doubt. And Denzel said the reason he didn't show up for spring stuff was because of the contract, which I don't blame either one of them because A, guaranteed money was out, and B, they wanted long-term contracts. But to see Delpit like standing there on the sideline, Andrew Berry comes and tells him like the deal's done. He went over, grabbed his helmet, was out there on the field with his teammates. So, I mean, we know these things happen in the NFL. Instead of holdouts, now they're hold-ins because obviously they get fined if they are holding out. But to see like the deal got done and they're back out there working, that was an awesome video to see. I'm glad the reporters caught it.
Yeah, and I had heard that he was missing like the first 20 minutes. Maybe he was just doing a quick physical to wrap things up for the extension so they can get all that paperwork, shirred up and ready to go. That
Yeah.
would be my guess.
Yep. Glad it's done for both Denzel and for Grant.
Absolutely. All right. We are going to get on out of here. Thank you to everybody who joined us for this very short live episode of the Dawgland podcast. Obviously, like I said, with training camp, we wanted to get in here with all the news that we had today. And like Jack said, if our schedules align and there's plenty of news out there, we will try our best to be here. Be sure to give Jack a follow over on X at JackMcCurry08. Be sure to give me a follow at Anthony Joki, Joki. It's right there on the screen. The Dawgland on all the platforms, TikTok, X, Facebook, etc., all at the same handle. The Dawgland. Until next time, we will see you all probably next Tuesday, unless there's something else that comes up and Jack and I are free. But until then, and as always, go Browns.
Go Browns.